Do you ever lie in bed exhausted and can't fall asleep no matter how hard you try? Maybe your brain won't shut off, or it just takes you hours to finally drift off to sleep even though you're physically exhausted. This is formally called sleep onset insomnia, which is when you have trouble falling asleep at the beginning of the night. And I completely understand the situation because this was actually my biggest struggle when I had insomnia for 16 years. Starting around when I was 11 years old, it would take me hours to fall asleep almost every single night. And this went on throughout college and also the beginning of my corporate career. And the worst part was the more I tried to sleep, the harder it became. But here's the thing, and this is the key to how I completely eliminated my sleep onset insomnia, which is this: your body knows how to sleep. It's just stuck in what I call high alert mode. And once you learn how to signal to your mind and body that there's no reason for you to be on high alert at night, that is the fastest way to get your sleep back to normal. So in this video, I'm sharing the most common causes for why sleep onset insomnia happens, and most importantly, how to fix it naturally without any sleeping pills or supplements, which probably wouldn't work anyways if you tried them, which I'll also dive into in a minute. If we haven't met before, hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Meredith Louden, and I'm a sleep coach who helps people overcome chronic insomnia naturally. And I can't tell you how many people come to me because they just can't fall asleep even when they're exhausted. But by the end of this video, you're gonna understand exactly why that's happening and what to do instead. So, why would your brain think that you need to be on high alert at night? This is where it gets really interesting because the part of the brain that regulates your sleep-wake cycle only is going to produce melatonin, which is the hormone that makes you fall asleep. Your brain is only going to produce melatonin if your brain is convinced that sleeping is safe. If your brain is perceiving that you're under some sort of threat or danger, then sleeping doesn't make any sense. Because your brain's job is to keep you alive at all costs. So this means that if you're taking a really long time to fall asleep, then your brain is perceiving a good enough reason to keep you awake. This is where the nuances come into play, because if you're in a safe living environment, then why is your brain thinking that you're not safe to sleep? Well, modern society and modern culture have become so high pressure and so busy that your brain is misinterpreting normal everyday life as threatening. We have two parts of the mind. We have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the most primitive part of the brain, which is most concerned about your survival. The subconscious mind stayed the exact same as when humans lived more primitive lifestyles, living out in the wilderness, hunter-gatherers, where there were actually real threats like wild animals. So the conscious mind developed completely separately from the survival mind, the subconscious, which means that the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, they do not speak the same language. They do not understand each other, which is why you can go to bed and you can close your eyes to sleep and consciously you realize that there's no logical reason to be awake, but still you're unable to sleep. So this means that your subconscious mind does not agree. Your subconscious mind still thinks there's a good enough reason to keep you awake. And usually there's two main categories for why this would happen. One, your subconscious thinks that it's preparing you for a potential threat in the future, like your busy day tomorrow, which you would know is the case if, as soon as you close your eyes to sleep, your brain just starts giving you thoughts about your to-do list, everything you need to do tomorrow, running through a play-by-play of everything that you got to do in the morning, etc. This is also super common if you're traveling the next day and you can't sleep the night before, or if you have a big work presentation or some sort of event happening. Your brain thinks it's preparing you by keeping you awake, thinking about it because it thinks it's helping you. When in reality, this is not helpful at all because it would be more beneficial for you to sleep and be well rested the next day so you could tackle everything that needs to happen with plenty of energy while doing it. So that's one of the core reasons for why your subconscious would keep you awake at night. And then the second reason is that your subconscious could think that it's protecting you from something that happened in the past. And it's misinterpreting that event from the past as something that is still relevant today and possible to happen again. So sleep issues are extremely common for people who've had trauma in their life, especially trauma that happened at night. And so the way that the brain works is that it takes information from your past and it uses your past experiences and it learns from it to be able to better help you in the future. And so when particularly stressful or traumatic things happen in our lives, those events are so intense to our nervous system. And so the brain ends up paying extra attention to those things. And then it automates that response, like insomnia, for the future because it thinks that it's helping you in the long run. When people have trouble sleeping, and this is exactly what I did for over a decade, which was that I went down the rabbit hole of how to fix my sleep. My sleep is broken. I just need to find the right supplement. I'm obsessing over sleep hygiene. I'm buying blue light blocking glasses. I'm being a perfectionist about my evening routine, and I'm like researching all these sleeping pills. But none of those things address the root cause of why you can't fall asleep. So that's why sleep supplements or even sleeping pills don't make much of a difference, because your brain is so much more powerful than all of that, and it's just not going to let you sleep if it thinks that you need to be awake at night to survive. And I know it sounds extreme, but the survival part of the mind is very primitive, and it only thinks in matters of life or death. What's actually happening is your brain is stuck in this high alert mode and it's turning on your fight or flight response at night. And on top of that, your brain might also be stuck in this high alert mode during the day if you're someone who also experiences a lot of anxiety or feels stressed out a lot of the time or is easily triggered. And if your brain is in fight or flight mode, sleep just doesn't happen easily because your brain thinks you're going to die. So this can become your default operating mode where this high alert fight or flight response kind of gets stuck on, always running in the background. And it can get to the point where it's actually your new normal and you don't even realize it anymore because you've just gotten so used to feeling stressed or anxious. This is why your mind starts racing as soon as your head hits the pillow to fall asleep and you're thinking about a zillion random things. And this is also why your body feels wired but tired. So how do you signal to your brain that there's no reason to be on high alert at night anymore? So let's talk about that. You can retrain your brain to see nighttime as a time for rest again so that you can fall asleep super fast. So my tip number 1 for this is to stop trying to force sleep. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this: the harder you try to sleep, the harder it becomes. Sleep is a passive process. You can't force it to happen, just like you can't force your heart to beat or your digestion to work. It all just happens without you putting in any effort at all. So instead of obsessing over your sleep, obsessing over getting into bed by a certain time or counting how many hours are left until your alarm goes off, shift your focus to just resting. I personally love nighttime because you don't have to do anything. The day is over. You finally get to take a break. Who cares if you sleep? At least you get a break, right? So instead of asking yourself, why am I not asleep yet? Shift your focus to, hey, at least I get to take a break and do nothing. And also remind yourself that my body is still resting and restoring itself even if I'm awake. And by having this mindset, it's taking the pressure off your sleep, and the less pressure that you put on yourself, the easier sleep happens. Okay, my second tip is to slow down your brainwaves before closing your eyes to sleep. Here is something that most people just don't realize. Your brain doesn't just flip a switch and fall asleep. It has to gradually slow down from the active beta brainwave, which is where you're fully awake and alert, and it has to slow down into the alpha brainwave, which is where you're awake but you're relaxed and calm. And it's from there that you can drift into the theta and delta brainwaves, which are when you're asleep. If you're in a beta brainwave, thinking, analyzing, stressing, your brain literally isn't in the right state to sleep yet. So how do you fix this? Well, I suggest you practice slowing down your mind by doing things that calm down your nervous system, like reading a book, journaling, or meditating. Those are just like the simplest things to start with. Right now, your brain has gotten really used to being in that awake and alert state. So think of it like a muscle. You just have to train it to go into the relaxed state more quickly. And then over time, your brain can transition from the active beta brainwave into the alpha brainwave and fall asleep really easily. I've basically programmed my brain to be able to slow down really fast because I am intentional about it. If you just wake up in the morning and go through your busy day nonstop and then get into bed and expect to fall asleep right away, that's not likely going to happen simply because you haven't given your mind a chance to filter through all the information from your day. When you pause and do something non-stimulating like reading, journaling, or meditating, that allows your brain to calm down and refocus on the present moment. In order to sleep, your mind has to be present and it can't be thinking about the past or the future. My next tip, tip 3, is to shift your identity around your sleep. One of the biggest mistakes people make when dealing with sleep onset insomnia is identifying as someone who can't sleep. The way that you think about yourself affects your real life experience. If you keep telling yourself, oh, I'm such a bad sleeper, or it always takes me forever to fall asleep, then your brain is gonna do what it can to actually make that come true. And this is how we accidentally end up sabotaging our sleep, because your brain starts operating from the assumption that having insomnia is just normal for you. And it's not that you're bad at sleeping, it's just that your brain has learned the wrong habit. And just like any other habit, it can be retrained. You were born with the natural ability to sleep, and you still have that ability. Your sleep isn't broken, and that's just the truth. So you got to reinforce to yourself thoughts that remind you of that truth, like my brain and body already know how to sleep, or if my body really needs to sleep, then it will sleep, or I'll trust that I'll get exactly as much sleep as I need tonight. Instead of constantly focusing on what you don't want, you need to instead reinforce the results that you do want, because that makes it more likely for you to have that experience, and it gives your subconscious mind the clear intention so that sleep becomes a no-brainer, literally. If any of this has resonated with you so far, then I invite you to next go watch my free masterclass for insomnia, which is on my website, which is going to help you so much more to fix your sleep naturally. This is where I dive deep into my sleep success method, which is how I've been able to help people literally all over the world end the insomnia cycle for good. So you can find that on my website and also in the description below. I'd love to hear your experience. What's the longest it's ever taken you to fall asleep? Let's compare notes in the comments. You might be surprised to see how many people have been through the same thing. It's such a common issue and you're not alone, and it is not permanent. You can fix it. Liking and commenting this video will also help other people find this information who really need it. You still have the natural ability to sleep, and you are so much more powerful than you think.